Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back. Yeah, another new toy today. The Epiphone Pro-1 Classical Nylon String Guitar. Woo-hoo! Okay, so a couple of YouTubers have been after me, asking me about playing classical. I haven't played classical guitar since I was like a kid. So I'd say since I was about, I'd say the last time I played one, 14 years old. Just before I started taking lessons, because my teacher and I tried to straighten the thing out, and he's good at working on guitars, but there was no hope for that classical. There was definitely no hope for the electric I had. It was right-handed, it was a piece of garbage, and so yeah, we ended up getting me an acoustic guitar at one of the pawn shops. Parents gave us a budget. We followed with, well, we had to spend a little extra obviously, but they let us do it. And I never really did much with classical since then. I've learned how to do finger picking, you know, which is what's generally done on nylon string guitars, you know, because that's part of where classical stuff comes from, you know, because they have a wide string spacing that's perfect for doing it, right? Acoustics with steel strings generally aren't the same way. So, but you can do it. You can get away with it, and I do finger picking all the time on steel string. And but I hadn't really considered going back to nylon, only because the one problem with nylon strings, they fall out of tune pretty quick. If you play ukulele, you're feeling my pain too, because I also have a ukulele. I've had a few other ukuleles, and they're all the same. You know, once you get them in tune, even if the strings have been stretched 15 miles, because it takes about that far to get them to stay reasonably well. You know, it is nylon after all, right? It's constantly stretching. They don't stay in tune very well unless you're very gentle with them. And finger picking can be gentle, can be aggressive, especially when you're talking, you know, even 6-string stuff. But I've been thinking about it for a while, and I checked out a few different classicals. I didn't want to spend a lot of money. It's kind of like, you know, I thought, well, maybe I'll get a Denver. Well, let me try out the Denver as a left-handed version at least, you know. Neck reminded me of mine when I was a kid. Really freaking wide, and it's like, even playing that thing left-handed was like, forget it. It's way too wide, and it's like, it's another reason I think I'm glad I didn't continue with that thing anyway. But I really didn't care for the fretwork on the Denver. Now Denver guitars, they have some really good ones, don't get me wrong. I've reviewed a number of them and I've had no real bad luck, but when it came to this classical guitar, it's like, yeah, that's got some roughness to it that I really am not going to deal with. But I also didn't want to deal with the really wide neck. And so I saw one of these on the rack at Long McQuade, and they're only 180 bucks new. Now, I got mine for 120 used, which was a fantastic deal. And I thought, okay, well, it's a used guitar, it's a 2020, which I don't really care. If you want to know about the specs, I will have the link below, but I'll give you a fast run through anyways. Top wood is laminated cedar, custom Pro-Prietary bracing, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean. The body wood is select mahogany. It's reduced body depth, they say 4/4 size, whatever. Binding on the top of the body, okay, as well as on the back side. And the top has got basically a couple of layers. The back is just a single thing of black. Binding on the fretboard, so it is a bound fretboard. This is pretty good for a $180 guitar. I mean, even for the bound fretboard, that's great. The fretwork on this, it has a couple of little edgy marks, but I think once the thing gets used to being in my humidity, it should come out right perfect. Because I mean, these were I got it used because Long McQuade ended up getting a bunch of these from one of the schools, and they spread them through a bunch of their stores. So each store got X amount, and this was one of them. And I figured, you know, hey, 120. I mean, hey, how do you go wrong? But anyways, the fingerboard is Rosewood, and it says something about Pro-Ease Lubricant, I guess, on the board, and I'm thinking, whatever. Okay, 25.6 inch scale, so basically we're talking full size guitar. Not having necessarily a full size body. This is a lot like the body size on my Taylor 114, so it's not a dreadnought. body, but it's comfy. The nut is a GraphTech NuBone. Width is 2 inches, so you can imagine how much wider that Denver is. A lot wider. Frets are what they call JumboPROs. Hardware is chrome. Saddle material is GraphTech NuBone as well. Bridge, of course, is made out of rosewood, and it's nice and shiny. Strings are Epiphone Ultralight Classic 2842s. Now, I ended up getting what they call normal tension strings. They're made by, I think, Dario, if I remember. They're in the other room. But I'm just like, just give me some light stuff. I mean, I don't even remember classical days of, you know, what string gauge I need, because they do their gauging different. It's kind of weird. But anyway, so 2842 is what comes on this thing, which is probably the original ones. I'll have to take the mic gauge to it and find out. But either way, I got other ones. Finish is what they call antique natural. So it is kind of really nice. I mean, I like the wood grain, how it's popping. You know, so it's kind of nice. The cedar top it kind of really doesn't look, well, it kind of looks like cedar, but it kind of looks more like antiqued, like, I don't know. Anyways, but it looks like something interesting. Fully glossed everywhere, you know, so definitely a full gloss body, and good too for laminated bodies, for tops that are laminated, because it's not so critical for humidity. But this thing definitely exhibits the typical classical nylon strings, where unless you're gentle with it when you're playing, it's going to knock out a tune rather quick. But you can strum them. I just got to get my thing going here. Now, if you are going to use a capo with one of these things, you best be using one that's tension adjustable, because if you use those spring-loaded ones, you're like, all you do is you put it on and it's whacked out of tune. There is no saving that. Okay? So be aware of capos on nylon stringed classical guitars. I don't know if I can finger pick very well right-handed, but Now, classical guitars give you a sound or tone that is unlike any other. You won't get these same kind of sounds or tones out of any steel string guitar. Hence, classical for a reason, right? But you can do single note stuff, finger picking especially, because that's what classicals are more made for. They're not really totally made for strumming, but you can. You will find that your G string is rather thick. Okay, so you got E, A, D, they're kind of like almost feeling normalish, right? But then your G string is a pretty thick string, and then it kind of goes, you know, the B and the E are very similar to the top ones, except no windings at all on your G, B, and E. They're open, naked strings, we'll call them. Okay, so no windings. Definitely bend strings fairly easily. I like the jumbo frets on it. I think they're great. But I looked at a few other classicals, because I thought, you know what, if I'm going to get a classical guitar, make a few people happy, at least on YouTube, I hope, I'm not going to invest much money. And it's going to have to be a righty, because to get a left-handed classical that's even decent, we're looking at like $600 from Godin. You know, and I'm like, not really that serious about classical anymore. I still love classical music, especially one of my favorite artists would be Leona Boyd. Love listening to her, you know. But I listen to other guitar players, you know, guys too that are classical players, and I really like the sound of a classical. I just felt more like, you know, all these years, whenever I did listen to anything like that, it would have to be, I don't want to play it, I just want to listen to it, you know. And but I have had the thought of, you know, why not get back into classical again, a little bit at least, you know, because they do have a really unique sound. And, you know, again, I can take something like this and add in certain things into a song that I want to do that I normally otherwise would have no possible way of doing, right? And so it's kind of like, well, you know, right-handed is not a bad thing, and I am a lefty player, but I'm getting better and better at right-handed every day. So, you know, because I'm starting to put more and more time in almost every day, we'll say. Not quite, but I do have other things I got to do too. I would recommend, if you are going to start playing classical guitar, period, and you want to strum with a pick, get a 0.38 millimeter pick and stick with that for a long time, because it's going to be a very flexible pick. It's very forgiving, and it's going to help keep the guitar in tune better when you're strumming. I tuned this before the video, and even through all that, it's still staying in tune. Respect. I like that. Now, playing a classical guitar to a steel string, it's a little different feeling because you got fatter strings, especially that G string is really fat. Now, some people say, well, it's easier to start somebody off on classical because of the fingers. It isn't. It's actually... yes, they're easier to push down, but because they're so much thicker, they can actually cause you more grief than pleasure at the time. So, if you are going to play classical first, I would recommend learning how to go with a very light touch, which you should have anyways. But also make sure that the action can be set down nice and low with that, so that you can get that lighter touch, but you're still going to have that G string that is really going to annoy the snot out of you, okay? Especially on the finger tip. It's going to be a real annoying one. The other strings will be pretty much fine, but the G string, it's your fattest string of the 6, and it's going to be pretty annoying, so just keep that in mind anyways. But otherwise, yeah, I see no reason. As long as your fingers can wrap around the neck on one of these things, you know, which, like I said, that was the other thing between this and the Denver. This has got more of a guitar type neck, even though it's got a 2-inch nut on it. It's narrower than an average classical, so it feels more comfortable, even for me to play. You know, I mean, I like this, and I love the price too. Now, this is not a guitar where you can actually flip the strings and get away with it. Normally, I've told you guys in the past that with a classical guitar, they're the same as ukuleles. They're straight across. Well, not always. There is always that sometimes where a company may throw you for a loop. This is one of them. Even though the amount that they shifted this was very minimal, it might be enough that it will throw it right out on the intonation side, which is going to be bad. Okay, I don't know for sure. I can't swear to it. But if you are going to get one of these and swap it to left-handed, the other problem you're going to have is the saddle is intonated as well, and that could go against the flip. So you're going to have to flip the saddle anyways, but it's going to make this as a reverse cut for the intonation compensation, because it's a compensated bridge. So you may even want to just consider getting a straight across bridge and hoping for the best if you're going to do a conversion job, which is completely safe for a classical. You'll never harm one. Your nut, though, you will have to actually purchase a proper left-handed nut that's 2 inches wide, okay, and take this one off, put it in a drawer somewhere where you won't lose it. And because you can't just recut, they don't give enough forgiveness for spacing even above the first fret, so you're not going to be able to compensate well enough with that. So that's another thing that has changed over the years. Before, you had the extra space to compensate. Now you don't. It used to be dead straight across, uncompensated saddles. Now they're compensated saddles with a very slightest of an angle, so keep that one in mind. Or just go buy yourself a left-handed classical if that's what you're going to play. But if you're going to play right-handed, by all means. I'm going to play right-handed because it was only 120 bucks, and for me, it was not a big investment. And like I said, I'm getting better at playing right-handed guitar anyway, so why not just do it this way, right? Price was right too. Anyhow, where would I want to put this thing though? I mean, I love the fretwork, and at least it ain't brass frets like mine was when I was a kid. That was horrible. These are actual real frets. The tuners are nice. I do like the tuning keys on this. They are nice. They do work rather well. The fit and finish on this is really good. For something that, you know, it's been around since 2020, she's in really great shape, amazingly enough. So, and no, I did not get a case with it. And this one is made in China. Okay, some Epiphones are made in China, some Indonesia, you know, varies. But give me some time, guys, to figure out this whole right-handed classical thing, especially for the finger picking part. And I'll definitely post some videos for you guys that want to see that stuff. And we'll just keep on going from there. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching. Do check the link below in the description because that is going to get you to this guitar on the Long & McQuaid website. Like I said, this will be a Canadian website. You can buy Epiphone guitars in the States too. But this is brand new price on these are $179, brand spanking new. And this is the Pro-1 Classic. So, and this one has the 2-inch nut. So it's going to be a bit not so wide of a neck, so it might be even better for a lot of you guys too, over the really wider necks. Check out the Denver when you're at the store, and check out this, and you'll see what I mean. The Denver is much wider, and it's just so much cheaper feeling too of a guitar. This is so much nicer, like way nicer. Even the sound of this is way nicer than the Denver. So, but especially the fretwork and everything about this, 100% nicer, so definitely I would go after the Epiphone between the two of them myself. Anyway, that's it, that's all, so yeah, see ya.